Tennessee, and Missouri that we know of. And let me make something clear, Amy. All the flips go in one direction. It's all from Obama, either to McCain or to Cynthia McKinney, as it happens. We did hear of 3 people who claimed that their votes were flipped from McCain to Obama in Tennessee, but they're all related to a Republican official. Their numbers are unlisted, and they told the local newspaper and not the Election Commission. So I have my doubts about those 3 cases. But there have also been, as usual, very long lines in Democratic precincts only. We're talking about a calculated kind of shortage that magically does not afflict Republican precincts, only Democratic ones.
Well, now, in these pre-voting, in these long, early lines, not all precincts are open, right?
Right, not all precincts. This is something that's happening in some parts of the country. And I want to make something clear here. Turnout on Election Day, massive turnout, unprecedented turnout is all important. Because, again, the larger the turnout, the harder the theft. The more people show up at the polls, the better it is, which means that those people who vote early should also go out on Election Day and be physically present at the polls to help to build that national mass.
Mark Crispin Miller, I want to put off our break for a minute because I want to play for you a piece from Pennsylvania and then get your comment. Pennsylvania, of course, a key battleground state many believe could propel either John McCain or Barack Obama into the White House. The American News Project went to Pennsylvania to cover potential voting problems on Election Day. They filed this report.
Most polls suggest the presidential race in Pennsylvania is neck and neck, so the vote in Philly could easily determine whether the state goes red or blue. During the primary election on April 22, 2008, a strong warning sign of potential November 4th problems emerged when widespread machine breakdowns led to very long lines and lost votes. And with over 200,000 new voters in Philly, voter rights groups are worried that the city is unprepared for the upcoming surge in voting. And unfortunately for voters, the people in charge seem surprisingly unconcerned.
Forget a long line. A long line is not justification for anything except waiting.
Anybody have anything to say? No. Or forever hold their peace.
Your Deputy Commissioner Fred Voigt told me that a long line is not justification for anything except waiting. I was wondering if the Commission has any response to that comment.
Did you see people waiting for baseball tickets all night long outside? Did you see the line that they wanted a new iPod? They all waited overnight and waited in line. Do you go to the supermarket, you see people waiting in line? No, they complain, they grumble, some of them just talk. So what is the difference?
I'm sorry, are you comparing voters who possibly have to work during the day to people who are standing in line to get an iPod or a Phillies ticket?
That's the same people. Same people. Same people. Come on, you're mixing apples, but sit down.
It's a right for every single person. I always vote ever since I turned 18. The first election that I could vote in. It's very, very important to me to be able to vote. I got to the school, I noticed that there were a lot more cars than in the past when I come to vote, and I thought, great, you know, there's more people out voting. But then when I got to the door, I noticed a couple people walking out, and people were saying that they didn't get a chance to vote, the line was too long, they couldn't wait. When I got inside, I definitely saw longer lines of people wanting to vote, and unfortunately, it wasn't just that there were more people voting, it was that 2 out of 3 machines were broken down.
Single mother Angel Coleman has joined the NAACP and a coalition of groups called the Election Reform Network in suing the state of Pennsylvania. They hope to improve access to emergency paper ballots in case machines break down again. The groups argue that long lines amount to a form of voter disenfranchisement, and they note that the response of election officials to the impending crisis has been woefully inadequate.
This is real. This is a real problem. You know, it happened to me. It happened to the people that I saw walking out. It happened to the other people that were testifying in court with me yesterday. So this is a real problem. This was all happening in Philadelphia to those people, to me, and it is representative of thousands of other people around the country.
I don't want these stories going out. There's going to be long lines. These poor senior citizens are going to pick up the paper and said, oh my God, do I got to wait 2 hours in line, my feet? Never happened in Philadelphia. I'm tired of this propaganda that they put in. Everybody wants a story. It's going to be my story. The lines are going to be so long. Knock it off. Knock it off. Try to run a smooth election. You can say what you want about me. I don't care. Spell my name right.
Just hours after this hearing ended, a federal judge ruled in favor of Angel Coleman and the voters of Pennsylvania, which means that paper ballots will be issued as a backup to faulty machines. Officials like Voigt and Tartaglione are the ones responsible for implementing the court order.
That report by American News Project, will be getting reports from them throughout Tuesday night for the 5-hour broadcast and Wednesday morning for our expanded 2-hour broadcast the morning after. That voice, especially for our radio listeners who didn't see her identified on the TV broadcast, was that of Marge Tartaglione. She said, make sure you spell my name right, Tartaglione. She is the chairwoman of the Philadelphia Voting Commission. Mark Crispin Miller, the significance of what she said, people wait all night for baseball tickets. They wait all night to get an iPhone. What's the problem?
Well, that kind of contempt, that cavalier attitude towards people voting, and equating voting, which is like a crucial civic function, with waiting online to get the latest toy, demonstrates how weak a commitment these people have to democracy. I mean, she's a Democrat, whoopee. All over the country, given how corrupt our political culture is, we have Democrats and Republicans essentially working together against the voters. The problem in Philadelphia with the long lines and so on, we've seen this elsewhere in the country. Just yesterday in Georgia, people were waiting over 10 hours to vote. So this is something.
And who this disadvantages? You might say, well, everyone waits on the line.
No, that's just it. Here again, as with the vote flips, which go in one direction, the shortages afflict basically one side. They happen in the inner cities. They happen in Hispanic neighborhoods. They happen in college towns, you see. So these people give up. They have to go to work and so on.
And even if
vote.
even if people from across the economic spectrum wait on the same line, the issue is who can wait. If you're a worker who's got to get back to work, if you have to work that day versus if you can take time off.
Well, that's absolutely true. I've yet to hear, though, of any long lines afflicting, the polling places in the suburbs or small towns, where there's a lot of Republican voters.
Finally, Mark Crispin Miller, voter assemblies, what are they?
Crucial, very important. I mean, there's a lot of things people can do and must do on Election Day to keep this thing from being stolen. They got to make sure they're registered. They have to know the hotlines, 1-866-OUR-VOTE and 1-866-MY-VOTE1. If anything happens to you on Election Day, if you're told you're not registered when you know you are, when people tell you that, when the machine flips your vote, for example, when you're intimidated, if there's a police presence at the polls, if you get disinformation telling you your Election Day is the next day, anything at all happens, let somebody know. Call those numbers. If there are people from the media there, tell them. If there are election protection people there, tell them. But make sure the story gets out, because this is the kind of evidence that has to be gathered and preserved, because on election night, sure as shooting on the networks, they'll all say, well, things went really well today. There were nowhere near as many problems as we thought there were. But finally, and most important, in the event that something untoward happens, and John McCain is right, and he wins late at night on Election Day, as he recently said he's going to do, any kind of an upset like that, people should be prepared to attend voter assemblies. This is something that's being run by Liberty Tree as part of their pledge for no more stolen elections. The website is libertytreefdr.org, libertytreefdr.org. The aim here is to organize voter assemblies so that on November 5th, people will turn out nonviolently, convene, discuss what's going on, and press for the proper kinds of investigations.
And if you voted early, you think you should go back to the polls?
Not to vote, obviously, even though I'm from Chicago. I don't recommend that. I think people should go back to the polling places and be visible, be present, be out there. In other words, treat this Election Day not as your opportunity to make a political choice. Of course it's that, or should be that. Treat Election Day as a day for the assertion of your right to vote. That's the all-important thing, and show this system that we're not going to take our disenfranchisement lying down.
Mark Crispin Miller, I'll see you right here tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with your computer monitoring voting around the country. Mark Crispin Miller, professor of media culture and communication at NYU, New York University. Most recent book, Loser Take All, Election Fraud and the Subversion of Democracy, 2000 to 2008. When we come back, we debate the issue of Proposition 5 in California. Stay with us. We'll be joined by the Attorney General of California, Jerry Brown.
We want voting representation. We want voting representation. We want voting representation. We want voting representation.